control market volatility will help focus on what you can control. We can connect in several virtual ways. Start by giving me a call at 615-907-7056. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
If you want to get some barbecue, I'll tell you how to do it. Head for the Slick Pig and you're into it. Just walk through the door at 1920 East Main and your nose will send a message right to your brain. Say, smells good. And barbecue. Slick Pig. They got ribs and beans. Got spicy wings. Slick Pig.
A Murfreesboro tradition. 1920 East Main.
It's All That's News with Matt Lane on News Radio WGNS.
Let's update today's top national stories next on All That's News.
Portions of our programming have been pre-recorded. The Good Neighbor Network, WGNS Murfreesboro, W270AF Murfreesboro, W263AI Murfreesboro, Smyrna.
This is CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting.
I'm Jennifer Kuiper. In the war with Iran, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth tells CBS News that Russia is providing to Iran intelligence on U.S. positions.
Well, we're tracking everything. Our commanders are aware of everything. We have the best intelligence in the world. We're aware of who's talking to who, why they're talking to them, how accurate that information might be, how we factor that into our battle plans, our CENTCOM commander. So we know what's going on.
More of the interview with Secretary Hegseth airs on the CBS Evening News. The conflict is expanding. More on that from CBS's Matt Gutman in Tel Aviv.
We are now in the 7th day of this war, and it continues to broaden. Obviously, a very major assault by the Israeli Air Force on a bunker of the regime in Tehran that was apparently used by the Ayatollah. That was going to be his command post in case of war with Israel. He did not survive long enough to be able to use it.
Tomorrow, President Trump will attend the dignified transfer for the 6 U.S. service members killed in Kuwait last weekend. Jennifer Hudson is in Chicago today.
I was
She's one of the many guests who've attended today's Celebration of Life event for the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Former President Bill Clinton was one of the 3 former presidents who spoke.
First time we met was at the 20th anniversary of the celebration of the integration of Little Rock Central High School.
Many in the community also attended today's memorial and say of Jackson,
It made me feel proud to be a Black American. I remember him as a leader who showed up for the greatest and the least.
The Reverend Jesse Jackson died last month at age 84. An about face by the Florida bar on a comment about an investigation into the former top federal prosecutor in Virginia. CBS's Allison Keyes explains.
Lindsay Halligan had no prior experience as a federal prosecutor, but was installed as the acting U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia amid pressure to bring charges against 2 of the president's political opponents. A letter from the Florida bar said yesterday there was an investigation against her pending, but now it says that statement was wrong.
Fired Michigan football coach Sharon Moore pleads no contest to 2 misdemeanors to resolve a felony home invasion case. Pope Leo has a new Ford Explorer. WWJ's Jeff Gilbert with more.
Ford CEO Jim Farley giving the Pope a new Explorer. The Explorer is built on Chicago's South Side, an area where the Pope once lived. It has extras like the Chicago skyline stitched into the center console. Workers at Ford Chicago Assembly Plant knew this vehicle was being made for a VIP. They just didn't know who.
Ford CEO presented the vehicle to the Pope in person last weekend. This is CBS News.
Join Adriana Diaz and Kelly O'Grady for the perfect start to your weekend. Ease into your Saturday with CBS Saturday Morning on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying. Just beautiful.
Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay. Things, people,
love.
Jen, I didn't know you shopped here.
Hey, I'm hunting for something fresh for spring.
Oh, girl, skip them all. Jewelry Television has the best spring looks right now.
JTV, way ahead of you. Just hit up JTV.com yesterday, scored the cutest clover earrings, 2 tennis bracelets, and this gorgeous pearl ring.
Right now, new customers get $20 off any purchase of $99 or more at JTV.com.
Oh, and gold hoops and this turquoise bracelet.
Just a couple things, huh?
Maybe more than a couple.
Well, good afternoon. Finishing up the paperwork on this earlier wreck, 440 eastbound near Nolensville Pike. It had it backed up almost to Hillsboro Pike just a few minutes ago in the eastbound lanes of 440 as it continues to pick up through Madison right now. 65 northbound. It's slow right there at Rivergate Parkway Radar. I-40 out through the Mount Juliet area. STR Towing and Recovery says if you need their help this weekend, no matter what county you're in, give them a call at STR Towing and Recovery. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Local farmers, local meats, vegetables, and other produce at the Winter Spring Rutherford County Farmers Market.
Bundle up and make your way every Friday at Lane Agri Park.
Rutherford weather.
Partly cloudy tonight with a slight chance for showers. Lows around 66. 79 tomorrow. Storms likely. I'm WGNS meteorologist Derek Height. Right now, 85.
On in 15.
Sir Pizza.
You can order Murfreesboro's favorite pizza online. SirPizzaTN.com. Carry out and delivery for dinner tonight at SirPizzaTN.com.
We're the Good Neighbor Network. FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro. FM 100.5 Smyrna. Audio and video streaming at WGNSradio.com.
This is the Blue Raider Podcast on WGNS, presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. It's your all-access pass to everything Middle Tennessee sports. Game recaps, player spotlights, and the latest from the heart of Blue Raider Nation. Now, here's your host, Jake Bolden.
Welcome back to the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. We've got a basketball March Madness packed episode for you today. If you fell asleep last night, men's basketball won down in Miami over FIU and has moved into 4th place. Women's basketball, they dropped a double overtime thriller at home to FIU last night. We're going to be talking about all of their Conference USA tournament implications and previewing next week's tournament. Joining me will be the voice of the Blue Raiders on ESPN Plus, Jake Rose. But before we get into today's episode, I need to thank Gold's Gym of Tennessee for sponsoring today's episode. They have a new month-to-month pricing now available online only with no additional fees. Their gold membership is just $25 bi-weekly with a $40 enrollment, or you can upgrade to the family plan for you and your significant other at just $45 bi-weekly with a $20 enrollment fee. That membership gives you access to all 16 Gold's Gym locations across Tennessee, along with group exercise classes and childcare. Again, all of that is included with your membership. There's no hidden cost there. So visit Gold's Gym in Tennessee online at goldsgym.com or learn more and find a location near you. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Blue Raider Podcast. If this is your first time, make sure you find us on our social media outlets at Blue Raider Pod on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And you will not want to miss tomorrow's live stream. It'll be Coach Insel's final home game. I may be foreshadowing. I don't know the specifics on it, but you don't want to miss tomorrow's press conference, to say the least, as they head off to Huntsville next week for the tournament. If you want to join today's episode, call into the station here at 615-893-1450, and our producer here will take your call. As I preface at the top of the episode, joining us today is our special guest for the second time now that we're a part of WGNS. It is Jake Rose. Jake, thanks for joining us today.
Jake and Jake, we're back again, man. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I still have some adrenaline running through me after that double overtime thriller last night. I thought it was never going to end. FIU saved all their timeouts. I thought we would be there all night long. I guess you were able to get to bed and recollect yourself this morning.
Hardly. I can tell you what, man. I don't know how many more overtime games my voice can handle. I think I've done more yelling and raising my voice this season between the mostly the men's team, because they've gone to like 5 overtimes and they've all been home games. And then, last night's double overtime, which was so physical and rough. And I don't know if I just got to drink more bourbon or throw some honey in my tea or what, but we got to start protecting this throat.
And the atmosphere was electric last night. I'll give Murfreesboro a lot of credit for that and the atmosphere that they created. That even just shouting across the media table to people sitting right beside me was doing a number on me, let alone you're doing the broadcast. And we'll talk plenty more about the Lady Raiders and their situation. I wanted to start today's episode off with the good, if you will. The men's basketball team went down to Miami, picked up a huge win, really, in the grand scheme of things, defeating FIU 73-67, came back there late, took a lead with about 5 minutes left, and held that lead out until the end. And I say that it's a huge win, not necessarily keeping FIU out of the tournament. They still have to play their way in tomorrow in Bowling Green. But more importantly, the men are now in 4th place. And we've talked all season long about how crazy Conference USA is. And just like that, I think 3 games ago you were in 9th, and now you're in 4th place, kind of controlling your destiny.
And what was it, probably 8 games ago, you were in 2nd? You were tied for 2nd. Last time they played Missouri State, they were in that number 2 spot. They were tied with Missouri State. They're both 4-2. And then Middle went on that, 4-game slide, 5-game slide, go down to 9th. Now they're back up to 4th. That just kind of goes to show you what parity, I guess you would say, for Conference USA this year in men's basketball, and really just how evenly matched these teams are. I feel like when you watch all of these teams, aside from Liberty, you're watching the same teams in a lot of respects in terms of style of play and just kind of the roster makeup as well. And not only just where they get their players, but just kind of the same size. So it's been a very interesting year this year for men's basketball.
You saying parity is spot on, because last night, if you're keeping up with Conference USA as a whole, it was a complete flip-flop. The entire bottom side of the standings won last night. MTSU excluded from that. And it has put everything into chaos, to say the least. I, on top of getting home late from the women's game, have spent all night rolling through all the scenarios. Where does MTSU fall? Well, luckily, I've done a lot of the research for you, Blue Raider fans, so you don't have to lose any more sleep like I did last night. But where they
I'm
sit
glad you
right
did
now,
it, because I didn't.
Well, the big thing is finding out what Conference USA's tiebreaker rules are, and I didn't understand them.
I had trouble finding that too. I've been trying to find that for the last month, and it took me a while, and then I was going off last year's, honestly. So yeah.
The way I understand it is tie break between 2 teams is a head-to-head. That's an obvious one. But if that is still the tie, it then goes record winning percentage from the top down.
Yes, so, that's the way I understand it, yeah.
And so that would mean everyone for the most part has lost to Liberty, but now that's not the case. So obviously now you have to bring Liberty back into that. But as everything is shuffled out, it is accurate. The Blue Raiders are currently in 4th place, but when you're looking at what they need to do, can they move up? Is there a scenario where they can move into 3rd place with a win and all these magical things happen? I hate to break the news. No, there's no way they can get into 3rd. And really, 3rd place, 4th place, you're going to have to play a pretty darn good team that second weekend. Matchup-wise, it just doesn't matter. And for seeding purposes, the 4-5 is the exact same game. So being in the 4-5 spot is irrelevant. It's a matter of, do you fall down to 6, where you're going to play the 3 seed, who is presumably going to be Western Kentucky. There's a very slight chance Kennesaw, again, the cards can fall and Kennesaw slides into that spot, but it's going to be most likely Western. Or do you fall down to the 7, and then you're going to have to do a play-in game with presumably UTEP, New Mexico State, and then if you win that, then you're in Sam Houston at back-to-back nights. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. You're looking to this matchup on Saturday. If you win, you guarantee yourself the 4 spot, and then you're looking at playing Louisiana Tech in that first matchup of the Conference USA tournament on Wednesday. That matchup will be Thursday. So looking ahead to this game tomorrow, they are in they are at Missouri State, I should say. This one went into overtime, much like you alluded to earlier. Another one of those overtime games. Blue Raiders won 90-87. They overcame an 8-point deficit with 6 minutes left. Torrey Alston had one of his classic 22.9 rebound games. Kamari Lands made 7 3-pointers in that matchup. But more importantly, on the other side, you had Keith Palick III, who's more than likely going to be an all-conference USA selection next week. And then they had Osei Bonsu, who is, I like to call him the 6'4" version of Giddy Potts linebacker. They combined for 40 points and 14 rebounds. And then, more importantly, Kobe Williams, the third head of that monster for the Bears, and Quanzo Martin, he added 19 points on 4 made 3-pointers. So, electric matchup. This one means a lot for both teams when you talk about seeding position. Luckily, neither team has to win to get in the tournament. But at this point, they're still trying to get favorable matchups. And Missouri State wants to stay out of that 8-9 spot because you don't want to have to play Liberty on Wednesday night. So I'm sure that they want to get off that spot if at all possible. So there's still a lot that goes into this game. Both teams, obviously, you still want to win and you want to feel good going into next week.
Yeah, and it's funny, you were kind of going through the stat line a little bit from that Missouri State game, double overtime. I think that was kind of like the beginning of the runs of all the overtime games that Middle had. And you kind of made me giggle a little bit when you talked about Michael Osei Bonsu being kind of the reincarnation of Giddy Potts. They even kind of look alike.
Yes.
Base. I couldn't, and I remember calling the game just being like, man, that dude just looks like Giddy. Totally different game. Totally different
absolutely.
Way they play the game. And if I'm remembering correctly, that dude, he really kind of took over in the second half. Anytime Middle would kind of creep out to 4, 5, 6 point lead, he was right there to get a bucket. And they were strong buckets. And he did a nice job of getting to the line too. The thing that I like for Middle tomorrow is I like the way that their interior defense has been playing during these last really kind of, obviously the 4-game win streak, but really the last 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. And a lot of that has to do with the energy and the effort that they're getting from Chris Loof on both ends of the floor. And because there were times where in the game against Missouri State the first time where Osei Bonsu was going through him, 7 inches smaller than him. I think he's 40 pounds lighter, but was going through Chris Loof, was going through the body of Jovanovic and even Torrey Alston at times. And I'm interested to see how Middle defends him this second time around.
I'm glad you bring up Chris Loof because the last time you were on, we were in that stretch of that losing streak, and we were very critical of Chris Loof, and I think appropriately so. But for the most part, these last couple games, you talk about the physicality, he's playing a lot better. The stat line that we were all watching last week is it was 3 straight games where he had double-digit rebounds, which was the first time that had happened, I believe, since it was Nick King, and we know for a fact because that was the last time when they had 3 straight double-doubles. Mm-hmm. And Torrey Alston also broke that record, or at least tied that record, I should say. Or not, it's not a record, but the last instance that happened. So that's obviously promising that those guys are playing well down low. But you talk about the style of all these teams in Conference USA. This one is just so unique because, like you mentioned, the style of Osei Bonsu, who just gets downhill. I mean, he's a linebacker playing basketball. And then Keith Palick, who is... He's technically a center, even though he's at 6'9". Chris Loof and Luka have 2 inches on the guy, but he just extends defenses because he is so talented at all 3 levels. Again, he's an All-CUSA, really going to fly under the radar when you're looking at the big picture of Conference USA because I think Missouri State, they weren't flashy going into the year. They really weren't flashy at all this year, but they're still somehow managed to be a good basketball team. But Keith Palick is a guy that I would think – I mean, he's a senior this year. I don't know. I'm not going to dig in his eligibility, but he's got to be coveted. Like, if he had an opportunity to get a 5th year, I would have to think some P4 somewhere is knocking on Missouri State's door. But nonetheless, Chris Loof, this is a tough contest for him because he's going to be keyed on Keith Palick because he's the center. But and oftentimes when we make those overhedge or he's switched on to Michael Bonsu, inevitably he's going to be tested. And this one, for again going in, I keep building up the tournament next week. It's going to be a tournament atmosphere. And can Chris Loof continue to have that switch turned on? Because when he does play well, I think you would agree with me, Jake, that this team just is better. When your 5 spot is giving you the energy, the physicality, this team is just, they're better. They're one of the top teams in this conference.
Yeah, and I actually talked to Nick McDevitt about this a couple weeks ago when Chris was starting to come alive against Delaware and against Sam Houston. You know, he had back-to-back games in double figures, but it wasn't just the points, it wasn't just the rebounds. It was the energy that he was bringing and the ability for him to cut people off on drives and protect the rim. Maybe not always coming up with a block shot, but playing that verticality and playing strong at the rim. And it's almost. And Nick was telling me that you see it in practice with Chris, and you know what kind of day you're going to get with him because it's written on his face. If he's got the look on his face that he's ready to come to work and he's not going to take any stuff from anybody, then that's when you're going to get those 10.8 rebound, 2 block games, and where he's playing great defense. And when that defense leads to offense the other way, because this Middle Tennessee team does not get out in transition very much, and a lot of it is because they don't. Whenever they play good rim defense. They don't get a ton of block shots that lead to points the other way.
Right. Well, this matchup, a lot on the line for this one. I think we touched on it. Winning the paint battle is going to be the big one. I'd keyed on keeping Missouri State off the 3-point line, keeping them when they're 0-9, when their 3-point attempt percentage is below their 38% average. So keeping them off 3-point line, make them one-dimensional, and so that means you got to be big down low. Talking about Chris Loof, Kamari Lands in particular, because Kamari's going to be keyed on Osei Bonsu, who talk about, again, that's a physical matchup, 2 6'9" forwards who like to play guard basketball. So a good matchup for mid-majors. I would think a lot of people are going to be keeping eyes on this one. But when we come back into our second segment, we're going to be switching gears over to the Lady Raiders and their hard loss last night in double overtime. But after this break, you are listening to the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee.
This is Chip Walters, and I'm honored to be your 2024 MTAR Realtor of the Year. I'm with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates, and like many of you, I've seen the real estate market shift and change. People often ask, Chip, what's really going on? Well, that's a great question, and I believe in answering with solid, factual data. So let's cut through some of the noise. I invite you to reach out. Let's have a conversation about your real estate goals and the current market trends in your neighborhood. You can find all my contact information at choosechip.net.
Lace up your best kicks for a night of impact benefiting First Shot. Join us for the annual Sneaker Ball, presented by Venture Express. Spend Sunday, April 26th with NFL Hall of Famer and Super Bowl MVP Marcus Allen. The event kicks off at 6 with a VIP meet and greet at 5. Reserve your table today. Call Coach Andy Herzer at 615-631-5312. We'll see you at the Sneaker Ball, benefiting First Shot on April 26th.
Clark's Auction Company will get you top dollar for your property.
Auctions are easy, fast, and profitable.
Whether you're buying or selling a home or commercial property, the auction is just so much easier, quicker, smoother.
My wife and I sold our personal home. Parks Auction helped us with that. The house brought about 20% more than we were going to ask for.
Visit parksauction.com.
Clark's Auction Company will get you top dollar for your property.
Clark's Auction Company, committed to auction excellence.
Sold it to you, 27.5.
Hi, I'm Wade Hayes, owner of Toots Good Food and Fun. I strongly believe that volunteers make a positive difference in the quality of life here in our community.
State Farm Agent Michael Busey serves as Vice Chair for Main Street Murfreesboro's Advisory Board. He is essentially the board's steady second in command, the person who keeps things moving when the chair can't be there, and helps to share the leadership load. Michael Busey, a dedicated volunteer with Main Street Murfreesboro, whom people can count on.
At Toots, we strongly believe that it's important for every one of our citizens to give some of their time and talent back into the community. And we want to honor these individuals with a Toots gift certificate good at any of our Rutherford County locations. 860 Northwest Broad Street, on Church Street in the Barfield area, in Smyrna on Sam Ridley, and Toots West on Franklin Road at Rucker Lane.
Roscoe Brown is this area's leading provider of home indoor air quality products and services. Back in 1940, Roscoe Brown started this family business with a goal of treating customers like family. Over 80 years later, that commitment continues. If you're new to town, ask Roscoe Brown to do a checkup on your HVAC and plumbing systems. It'll make a difference. Call Roscoe Brown and schedule a checkup today.
Roscoe Brown.
RoscoeBrown.com. Good afternoon. Trying to clear up this wreck that had traffic really slow over here, extra slow, should I say. 440 eastbound at Nolensville Pike. Again, it's in its wrap-up stages, but it was wrong place, wrong time. Now it's really slow coming past Hillsboro Pike there on 440 east. Once you get past Nolensville Pike, it does pick up. Radar I-40 out through the Mount Juliet area. Hey, don't let a slipping transmission make things worse on your car or a truck. Bring it to Amco Transmissions on Nolensville Pike. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
This is the Blue Raider Podcast, presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, 100.5 Smyrna, WGNSradio.com, and the Blue Raider Podcast YouTube channel. Now, back to your host, Jake Bolden.
Welcome back into the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. I am joined by ESPN Plus Blue Raider voice Jake Rose. We're talking all things basketball today. Men's basketball picked up a big win down in Miami. Last night, the Lady Raiders fall in double overtime. We're going to be breaking down that matchup in particular. But if you're just now joining us, don't forget to follow us on our social medias at Blue Raider Pod, X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, where today's episode is currently being live streamed, and of course tomorrow's live stream press conference after the Lady Raiders game against Missouri State. If you want to call in to our episode today, the number is 615-893-1450, and our producer here will take the call. Baseball is now on their first losing streak of the year. They fall at UAB today, 12-2. Mercy rule in 8 innings. They're going to look to bounce back tomorrow as long as they can avoid the weather. And then softball actually kicks off their Conference USA season today down in Kennesaw. They are currently trailing the Lady Owls 1-0 and just now in the top of the 4th inning, so plenty of time left there. But like I said, we are joined by ESPN Plus voice for the Blue Raiders, Jake Rose. We're talking about the Lady Raiders and what an exciting matchup that was last night, playing realistically for second place, because now that FIU has won, I don't think, again, I've run through all the scenarios, I don't think that there's a way that they fall out of second place, which is unfortunate to say the least. But last night was one of those games, Jake, where you hated that someone had to lose that game.
You know, I've been doing this for 12 years. I don't know how many games I've done at this point in time. This is one of the first times I've actually been sad leaving the arena, just because it was such a physical game. It was so hard fought. The way FIU played, not according really to the scout. They were just knocking down threes left and right. This is not a 3-point shooting team whatsoever. And for them to win in double overtime without their 3 leading scorers, including the 2 of the top 3 scorers in the conference, says so much about this FIU team, because this series has been so one-sided since for the last 14 years, 15 years. I think Middle had won 20 of 23. But the way that Middle Tennessee played, how hard they played, for as physical as a game as it was, and you didn't get the best out of Blair Bogus last night. Elena Contreras was outstanding. Kind of ran out of gas in overtime. But then you get some really, really tough minutes from Gracie Hamby of all places, and everything that she's had to go through this week. And then you got Carson Swaney's best game last night coming off the bench. She's I know she's been playing a little bit more as of late, but she didn't play the game before that. And for it to just come down to double overtime when FIU doesn't have their 3 best scorers and Middle is without Kirsten Broholz, who fouled out, Bogus fouled out, and it's just who can manufacture a bucket at that point. And FIU was able to come away with 1 more. And just, I cannot tell you how tired those girls looked. Just both teams just looked like pure exhaustion.
And emotionally drained. At least that's what we witnessed in the press conference. And the girls know, as much as they may put on the facade that, it's just another game. They know what last night meant to everybody. You have to win. If you're the Lady Raiders, you had to win last night, and you still had to win tomorrow to guarantee the 2 seed. But now FIU, winning put them on the 2 spot. So there was a lot to that. And it may not mean a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it is an extra day's rest in next week's tournament. That obviously means a lot, getting that extra day. But you move past it now. But I don't want to move past it. That's why this one was tugging on me all night long, because I felt
it lingers
so much for AC. She, like you said, 22 points, had a great game, 4 of 7 from 3. She had 2 opportunities at the end of regulation to win it. She had an opportunity at the end of the first overtime to win it, came up empty, and no one is more critical of Elena Contreras than Elena Contreras. I can promise you. And if you can see Matt or you can see Rick, ripping into her, I can promise you none of them are more critical of her own game than herself. And she wore that emotion on her sleeve last night in that press conference, took a lot of responsibility for missing some of those late shots. I think FIU did a good job there late defending her. As you say, manufacturing points is what it really came down to. And FIU, I believe it was the second overtime, but MTSU was up 77-74, looking like their best scorers are out of the game. All you got to do here is get a stop. They throw it into a corner to a girl that's made 12 3-pointers all year long.
Yeah.
And she makes it. And just like that, it's like it felt like even in situations where you're playing well, you just couldn't do anything. FIU just had an answer. And that's what tournament basketball is like. So I always say this, and I went home, at least you can, if this can make you feel any better about last night. If you were going to lose one, last night was the time to do it. You're going to get you're more than likely, if you win Saturday, you're going to get a second opportunity to play FIU, presumably in the semifinals if you find your way into the 3 seed. And we'll talk about what the Lady Raiders and what Conference USA has to do for them to get the 3 seed. But you get swept by FIU in the regular season, but luckily they're going to have to beat you, hopefully, a third time in the tournament. So you flush this. You move on to the next one. Well, what is the next one? Well, Jake, you'll be calling it tomorrow on ESPN Plus at 2 p.m. It is Senior Day, but it's not Senior Day because Elena Contreras is a senior. I don't know what the plans are. I have not heard anything on social media or a public notice that, we're going to have a Senior Day for Elena. Elena, if you didn't already know, does have another year of eligibility if she wants it. I don't know that she's officially or formally applied for that extra year of eligibility. She has expressed that she, wants to do it. Now, that's going to be in Murfreesboro or not, I don't know. I would speculate that she likes it here, but money talks. But when we're looking to this game tomorrow, they're going to play Missouri State, who, much like MTSU, is looking to slide into that 3rd spot and stay on the opposite side of the bracket from Louisiana Tech. So a lot going on there. The Missouri State did win last night in Bowling Green. Looking back to the last time these two teams played, the Lady Raiders were in Springfield, and they fell 60-54. That was all the way back almost over a month ago. On February 5th, they allowed Cayman Beckemeyer to score 25 points on 4 of 5 from 3. And she was 4 of the 5 made threes that Missouri State actually had. Pfeiffer played some limited minutes, although it was 31, but she was fighting a lot of foul trouble there, so didn't get normal performance out of her. Blair Bogus only had 5 rebounds, which was tied for second fewest in a Conference USA game this year. And as a team, the Lady Raiders were out-rebounded 37-24, including 11 of 2 on the offensive glass. It was just not the score, only a 6-point deficit, but when you look at just the box score and these team stats, you would have thought that this team MTSU would have got blown out. And it just wasn't a recipe for them to win that matchup at all, and hopefully looking to reverse that scale tomorrow.
It's kind of funny you mention it. I was doing the game with Daryl Keckler last night, and I kept looking at the stats when I could, and it just never seemed like FIU's shooting percentage ever went below like 62%. Mm-hmm. It's like, how is Middle even in this game? How's Middle winning this game by 5, 6, 7 points? So it's just one of those games. with Missouri State as well, to where it's not always necessarily the box score, but it is just what happens out on the floor and those little things, those little plays that don't always jump out at you at the box score. But I've got a feeling that this game is going to be very similar to when they last met on, was that Valentine's Day?
Just short of it, a week short of it.
Yeah, okay. February 2nd, yeah. So it's going to be a good game tomorrow. Very, very fun.
Well, and truth be told, no one wants to be on the same side of a 16-game winning streak Louisiana Tech team. I mean, I certainly would much rather be on the 3-seed line right now and playing against well, I guess if you're the 3, you'd be playing against a 6, which right now we still don't know who that is, but that could likely be a Liberty team. It could likely even be a Sam Houston team. So that matchup isn't fun, but you don't want to have to play Louisiana Tech in the semifinals. I can say that much. But this one, really, when I look back at that last game, the Lady Raiders, they didn't come out to a slow start. It wasn't anything like that. It's just Kamen Beckemeyer. She's the leading scorer in Conference USA, over 17 points per game. She's a heck of a rebounder for a 5'9" guard. And she over 30% of her scoring comes from the free throw line. Maybe it's not as simple as that, but it is as simple as that. If you can stop Beckemeyer, this team, Missouri State, just doesn't really do well. And I know that, if Lady Raiders or anyone close to that program is listening, there's no secret to them. They know what they have to do. But I hope that maybe last night gives them a little shot in the arm, refocus up quickly for this one, because I feel like Missouri State, and again, I'll be critical of them, are kind of just a one-trick pony.
Yeah, Missouri State gets everything done on the defensive end. We've seen this young Middle Tennessee team bounce back. When Brick was sitting on career win 499, they should have beat Delaware. That was one of the worst games. That was arguably the worst game that they'd played all year. Was against Delaware. Then they bounced back big time against Liberty on Saturday. Now this is a little bit different because the emotional toll that this season has taken on this team, and the physical toll that game took from them last night against FIU, coming into a game against Missouri State that's very physical, just like FIU, that plays some really hard-nosed defense for a team that struggles with physicality every now and again, especially in the backcourt outside of Elena. You saw that Savannah Davis and Yuhan Lin did not play a lot of minutes last night against FIU, and a lot of that has to do with that physicality. So how does this young team respond from a very emotional week and a very emotional loss with something riding on the line on the final game of the year? So that's my thing that I'm going to keep my storylines open for is just, what does this team look like? What does shoot around look like? Is everyone having a good time? Are they smiling? Are they relaxed? Are they ready to go, or are they a little stiff? Do they look a little tired? What is this young team? Where are they at mentally? That's what I'm keeping my eye on.
And unfortunately, from experience, you don't get to see those girls in those type of moments, because a lot of their worst times this year have been on the road. That's been their biggest struggle. After the Delaware game, there was a little bit of disappointment looming. Understanding we lost Coach his 500th game tonight, but there's going to be another chance on Saturday. And they, like you said, they bounced back and did it. This will kind of be, like that game last night not only takes a lot out of you physically, but as I said earlier in the show, emotionally. This team has got a lot to do about pulling themselves up from their bootstraps here and just getting a job done. And I talked about what they need to do to secure the 3rd spot, or at least I teased it. I don't want to give it away yet, because that's going to be our final segment, letting you know what your rooting interest is. But this one tomorrow, I look forward to seeing how not only the team responds, how does someone like AC respond, who again wore the result of that game on her sleeve last night. Because she was unstoppable in regulation. Overtime came, she just couldn't find it. And you talked about the physical presence. Carson Swaney, someone that probably does go under the radar in that game. Her size and her ability to just always be where a loose ball is. She's so great at getting those offensive rebounds. But her presence was felt last night. How does her playing time get impacted in a game like tomorrow? Because Carson obviously impacts the game on a rebounding aspect. I think it was 5 rebounds. Gracie Hamby, you touched on Gracie Hamby, 5 rebounds in her limited minutes. I mean, the bench is so deep, and we've known that for years. But how does that get impacted in a game like this one tomorrow night? But again, the Lady Raiders at 2 p.m. against Missouri State in a not untypical senior night that I don't think they're going to be honoring anybody, but that game is on ESPN Plus. Jake Rose will be on the call for that one. We have to go to a break before we get to our final segment, where we're going to be talking all about Conference USA, the tournament implications, what's going to happen, who's your rooting interest for the Lady Raiders to get to that 3 seed, where are the men going to fall when all this is said and done, of course previewing that tournament next week. But we will be right back after this break. You're listening to the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee.
Whether you need general vehicle upkeep and maintenance or a complete vehicle overhaul, Hall's Auto Care is here for you. We're locally owned and operated by Greg Hall and have been in business since 2014. You'll get excellent service and trustworthy advice with Hall's Auto Care. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. We're ready to help get you safely on the road. Hall's Auto Care, 907 Ridgely Road, just off Broad Street behind Chili's. Online at hallsautocare.net. Hall's Auto Care.
Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home has served Murfreesboro families with compassion and care since 1880. As a family-owned funeral home, we're committed to honoring every life with dignity through traditional services, cremation options, and pre-planning that gives you peace of mind. For over 140 years, we've been here when it matters most. Visit JenningsandAyers.com. Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home, honoring life and comforting families since 1880.
For nearly 15 years, Branches has been the place to go to find help for mental, behavioral, and emotional needs. Branches is also a place to turn for wellness. Branches weight loss, wellness care, and med management are important components in the overall ministry and message that Branches has to the Good Neighbor community. Go to branchescounselingcenter.com or call 615-904-7170.
Hey, I'm ordering dinner. I was thinking burgers.
Boom! I just earned a $600 bonus for opening up a checking account at Old National Bank.
Back in 20.
No, I definitely said 40-ounce dry-aged tomahawk steaks. Yep, with those little sauteed mushrooms.
Earn up to a $600 bonus when you open an eligible checking account and complete qualifying activities. Visit oldnational.com/checking and get old. Member FDIC. Additional restrictions apply. Offer valid through June 30th, 2026.
This is the Blue Raider Podcast, presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, 100.5 Smyrna, WGNSradio.com, and the Blue Raider Podcast YouTube channel. Now, back to your host, Jake Bolden.
Welcome back into the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. I am joined by ESPN Plus play-by-play for the Blue Raiders, Jake Rose. We are talking everything Conference USA Tournament in our final segment of today's episode. Before we get into it, make sure you're following us on our social medias at Blue Raider Pod on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and of course YouTube, where today's episode is being live streamed. And if you want to join in our final segment here, that phone number is 615-893-1450, and our producer here will take your call. One more check-in with softball. They are still trailing Kennesaw 1-0 in the top of the fourth inning. They're probably having issues with stat broadcast because that is the exact same update I gave you at the top of last segment. So hopefully I can get you something more up to date when we conclude today's episode. Jake Rose joining us, like I said, from ESPN Plus play-by-play for Middle Tennessee. Jake, this time of year, it just kind of scratches that itch, doesn't it? You wait all year long, and there's just there's nothing in any other sport like March Madness.
No, man, I was watching Drake beat Belmont in the Missouri Valley quarterfinals today while I was doing some of my notes for the women's game today. So, yeah, it's that time of year, man. Weather's turning. March is here. Hoops is going to be on from morning to night, and I love it. I also get a little depressed this time of year just because I wish I was calling more games. I'm lucky to call the TSSAA Boys and Girls Championships. I've been doing that for the last 7-8 years, and again this year, luckily. But man, like I would kill to just be able to call a conference championship game or a conference tournament game at any point in time.
It's so exciting. You just never know what you're going to get. Like you said, everyone thought Belmont, and maybe you could pick for Murray State out of the MVC, but my goodness, Drake, just taking it to Belmont today.
Yeah.
And you know what it makes me think, and I'm purely speculating here. Does it ring a bell of Kermit Davis's last year, losing in that first round to Southern Miss, going to the NIT and getting beat at Louisville? Just Casey Alexander, he's swirling conversations about him moving up. I just couldn't help but think, man, this end of the tenure for Alexander at Belmont feels very eerily similar to Kermit Davis.
Yeah, man, happens every year too. There's always that one team that you think is going to be a lock to make the tournament at this mid-major level, and then they falter in the conference tournament. Now, a lot of times I still think those teams should be in. As the older I get, the more I kind of dislike conference championship games and like in the whole win and you're in, because then it's like, well, what is the point of having all these road games that we just won, over and over again in conference? So that's starting to kind of annoy me a little bit. But here in America, we love playoffs, we love tournaments. And
money. Don't forget the money.
And money. Yep, that's number one. So that's definitely scratching that itch. But there's always that one team every year that you think is like, it was Indiana State a couple years ago when they got left out, and then I think they lost in the first round or second round of whatever they were in, whatever. Because I know it's not the NIT as much anymore. It's the CBI and the tournament and all this other stuff. So,
well, this year it's going to be Miami of Ohio. Heaven forbid if they don't win the MAC.
Man, I tell you what, if they don't win the MAC and they keep them out of the tournament, then what are we doing? Like, I understand that their strength of schedule is not that great, but when other teams won't play you, when you are trying to schedule other teams, other Power 5 teams, Power 4, whatever, and they're just saying, no, we don't, because they don't have to, because if they lose, it's only bad for them. Even if you are, a Miami, Ohio, or a Belmont or a Butler back in the day, then what are we doing? Like, it's starting to drive me nuts. Like, it's a 30-win team.
Right.
Put them in the tournament.
It's not a debate, and we've had McDevitt talk about this in our yearly episode when the schedule gets released. It's not as easy as people think. I think if you know sports well enough, it's not that easy, and there's even more analytics that go into it. When I talked to Nick about this, because he's consistently scheduled 3 non-D1s every year, and everyone rolls their eyes at it, and it's we got to play games somehow. But those games, whether you win by 500 or you win by 5, have no effect on your net ranking. If MTSU were to schedule Mississippi Valley State, sorry you're catching a stray on the Blue Raider podcast, but if you were to schedule Mississippi Valley State and beat them by 20 at home, it actually would hurt your net ranking. Does MTSU no favors to schedule weak D1s. So that same rule applies for the Michigans and the Houstons of the world that had to play Middle Tennessee this year. Houston beating MTSU narrowly hurt them in the net rankings. Well, when it comes down to seeding, when Houston is vying for, I think they're on the 2-3 line right now. Maybe I've missed a few weeks, but they're on the 2-3 line. That MTSU game, whether they realize it or not, hurts them. Like, it does not help their resume building. So Houston has no incentive to schedule Miami of Ohio. But luckily for Michigan, they collected themselves in the second half and blew out MTSU. Luckily, they've blown out everyone they've played this year. But for Michigan, there's no incentive. So I can understand where those schools get it. It's just the way the system has been made that it's not designed for the big schools to want to play the small school. And then when the small schools have excellent years, you get left out of this system because that's the way it's built.
And it was starting to change even before we had these mega conferences in football. You were starting to see more 500 teams from the Big Ten, ACC, and SEC starting to make it. And it just drives me nuts. Like, you've had so many opportunities. Like, I'm an Indiana fan. There's no reason that Indiana should be a tournament team. I don't care what they do against Ohio State on Saturday. Like, they've had so many quad 1 win opportunities that they've lost. Like, if you're given the opportunities, you have to capitalize on it. Don't reward a team for winning 4 of 12 quad 1 win game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's like I said, I don't have the solution. I'd rather be the guy on my podcast just completely complaining about the situation. I think that's easier for everybody. But I want to get into what Conference USA is bringing to the table this year. Liberty, who was looking like a team that if they had gone through this conference undefeated, they'd be in that Miami conversation. Yeah. Like, you know, do we put them in if they go undefeated in Conference USA? Well, luckily, they've taken that out of the hands of the committee, because now I think even if they were to go through the conference, the last I saw, bracketology has them as a 13 seed, I believe, and I would think anyone else that wins this conference, it's not Liberty, would probably fall to a 14, 15 seed. Yeah. Just because everyone in this conference has beat each other up, so our records don't look great. The all the metrics don't look great, but go into the conference tournament next week. If you haven't already purchased your booklet from the GoBlueRaiders.com ticketing app, the all sessions booklet is $175 per person. Again, that gets you an all sessions morning and evening from Tuesday to Saturday, not just MTSU games, which is the deal if you plan to go down to Huntsville and spend some time there. But you can still buy single session tickets at the arena when you do arrive, although obviously expect a markup, expect to pay. There are some free parking, but you should probably expect to spend some money on parking. So I always say getting the booklet if you plan to go to multiple games, and as a fan, I would like to think that these teams will be there at multiple games. So it's the gamble you take in today's sporting world. But we talked about the women in the last segment, what they need to do to get the 3 seed. Well, the easiest route right now is to beat Missouri State, but that doesn't solve their problem. And again, talk about scratching an itch. I love digging through scenarios. What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? Well, luckily, there's someone out there way smarter than I am that made this really cool tool. It's on bball.notnothing.net, which if you don't
rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, it's eloquent, really. But if you go onto his website, his name it's MRed. He has made a whole gadget, gizmo, whatever you want to call it, on the internet where you can go to Conference USA women's basketball and you can plug in the results of all the games that are going to happen from tonight when Liberty faces Delaware, and then all the Conference USA games tomorrow, and it gives you the seeding scenarios. Well, for MTSU to get the 3 seed, they have to win, but they also need Sam Houston to win tomorrow night. They are at New Mexico State, so likely that will happen, but New Mexico State is currently on the chopping block. They have to win to get into the tournament, so it's not necessarily all cut and dry that Sam Houston's going to win. Sam Houston also currently sitting, I believe, on the 6th spot, so if they were to win, it moves them into the 4th, so you get some favorable help, but that is the only way you get to the 3 spot. If Sam Houston loses, you're out. And you want to know why? I'm going to save you the time. The round robin, they do a round robin tiebreaker here. So you collect everyone that would have the same record, presumably MTSU, Sam Houston, Liberty, if they beat Delaware tonight, would all be 11-7. They put them all into a group of 4. What's the round robin record amongst these 4 teams? Well, MTSU would win that tiebreaker with having a win over Sam Houston, 1 win over Liberty, and 1 win over Missouri State. So they would then be the afterthought to get the 3rd seed. So your rooting interest tomorrow outside of MTSU is you need Sam Houston to defeat New Mexico State, and that will secure you into the 3 seed. Again, favorable 3 seed matchup opportunity. Then on the men's side, as like I touched on, you can use the exact same website, bball.notnothing.net, find Conference USA, and then plug in all the results there. The men currently sitting in the 4 seed. If they win, they will retain the 4 seed. That one's pretty cut and dry. When they lose, there's a lot, and I don't want to bore anybody with those details, but when you get the 4, the 5, 6, 7 opportunities, a lot's going to have to shake out and shuffle there. So ideally, you just take care of business on the road at Missouri State, and you just kind of figure out where you're going to fall from there. But Jake Rose, we talked about what could happen here. The Lady Raiders, again, the 3 seed is so favorable to them because you're going to get a more favorable matchup in the semifinals, although that is FIU, who you've lost to twice this year. It's been forever since you played Louisiana Tech, but they won last night by 40 points. I don't think I want to be playing Louisiana Tech now. The women's conference, though, does feel winnable for these ladies. I think that they have what it takes. It's just a matter of putting those pieces together.
Yeah, I don't see anybody knocking off Louisiana Tech this year, but in terms of if there's anybody that can do it, I absolutely would believe that it's this Middle Tennessee women's team. there's going to have to be firing on all cylinders. They would have to have a great game from Blair Bogus and AC and Macy Pfeiffer, and probably have to get a little something extra from one of the guards, whether it's Yuhan or Savannah Davis. But yeah, I think they can. It's just a matter of, sorry, my dog is losing his mind right now. It's just a matter of can they put it all together at the right time? And, you know, March is, we've talked about it, is about if you're playing your best ball at the right time. And is this Middle Tennessee team right now? No, they've lost 3 of their last 4. So that's what makes tomorrow, I think, really important. Is it's really a get-right game before conference play, no matter who they play in conference tournament.
Well, on the men's side, we talk about how good Liberty has been, but they are arguably playing the worst basketball out of anyone in Conference USA right now. So on the men's side, you've won 4 in a row, albeit you've played the bottom half of the conference. Missouri State's kind of your biggest test in these last 5 games, but no team feels comfortable right now. Going into last night, I thought Sam Houston and Western Kentucky were the 2 best teams, and they both, you know, Sam Houston lost to last place Delaware, and Western really got boat raced out of the gym by Missouri State last night. So no one feels safe on the men's side. And again, if you get into the tournament going on a 5-game win streak, you have to think, hey, maybe MTSU might be the best team right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Middle wins tomorrow night, they'd have to be the favorite to meet Liberty in the final. You know, it's so funny. I'm kind of looking at the standings right now, and Liberty is the only team with a winning record away from their own arena. Mm-hmm. Everyone else is under 500 on the road. So I kind of wonder how that would play out in a venue like the Von Braun Center.
Well, and MTSU travels well. We certainly know that. And so if Blue Raider fans, if you haven't already, get that All Sessions booklet. Again, $175. Go to goblueraider.com. Find the ticketing link. Jake, we are closing it up for today. I appreciate you so much, man. I need to know, because I probably won't be able to have you on. Who's your pick? Yeah. You got to make your pick right now for a national championship. Who's it going to be?
Oh, man, I'm just hoping it's not Florida. But give me Dusty May and the Michigan Wolverines. I know they're a little banged up, but like you said, they've just been boat racing people left and right. Yeah, I think I like Michigan, depending on the bracket, but yeah.
The trapezoid of excellence says it's got to be Michigan or Duke right now, which I feel like that's such a cop-out because they're the 2 best teams in the country, fair. But I think that's the right choice. It's got to be Duke or Michigan at this point. I like Michigan because of their fast pace on offense, so I like it. But, of course, the Blue Raider faithful that are listening to me today, you'll be able to listen to me again every Friday like you do. But thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. If you're not already following us on our socials, at Blue Raider Pod, at X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Make sure you do so by following and tuning into our live stream tomorrow on YouTube. Thanks to my producer, Jackson Smith, and again to my gracious guest, Jake Rose. You can listen to him tomorrow at 2 p.m. calling the Lady Raiders against Missouri State. Thanks again for listening to the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee.